emotions flow. It's the FUD and FOMO show.
Love that tune, GM guys, and welcome back to another Friday episode of FUD and FOMO. My name is Nick. I'm joined by Guy over here in very peaceful Dubai. And of course, we're joined again by Louis over there chilling at the beach down in South Florida. How you doing, Brent?
Yeah, just chilling, man.
Enjoying it, man. Yeah. Louis was scheduled to come back and join us this weekend, but some events over the weekend seems to have pushed that back, unfortunately.
Yeah, had a little trouble getting back to Dubai, so I'll stay over in Florida for
those goddamn flight delays. Yeah, airlines just can't get it right.
Yeah, I know.
I know, Louis. It must be really tough for you stuck there in Florida. I know how much you're missing.
It really is. Can I get one more pina colada, please? Yeah. Sorry. What was that?
Oh man, rubbing it in, man. But anyways, guys, thanks again for joining us for FUD or FOMO. And this is our bi-weekly update, Friday update, where we take a look at FUD and of course some FOMO. And there's been a lot of that this week, both on the macro side and then more specifically on the crypto side. Actually, for once, some FOMO on the crypto side. So we'll be diving into all of that. But please, guys, if you're watching, don't forget to fire up those likes. And if you're not subscribed yet, why not? Subscribe right now. Hit the subscribe button. Ping that bell as well. And let's start off, as we usually do, with a look at the market update, because for once, Bitcoin has actually acted as a safe haven asset, a risk-off asset. A risk-off asset to the extent that it actually rallied out of the weekend attacks on Iran. And I'll quickly show my tweet. Actually, Guy, I'll share my screen because I've got it on my screen right here. And basically, there's a few things you guys want to look at from the perspective of charts, right? And the first one is, oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry, my bad. This is the daily chart. Now, if you guys watched the news on Monday, I pointed out that we were in this symmetrical triangle from a recent fall in price of Bitcoin on the daily chart. And if we'd broken out of that, we could potentially be, it would depend on which way the markets went, we would have been either in a breakout and recovery, or a continuation of the downtrend. And we broke out above the symmetrical triangle, and on now, when we were also above the 200-week moving average, exponential moving average. So that's a good recovery there. Another really interesting chart I wanted to show you guys is the Bitcoin to gold ratio, more specifically the long-term Bitcoin to gold ratio. And the reason this is interesting is because I traced it back to 2015, and the Bitcoin to gold ratio, when it tops out, there's usually a top where you have the Bitcoin outperforming gold, and then it collapses down in a Bitcoin bear market, and it falls relative to gold. And the timing from the peak of the Bitcoin gold ratio to the trough in the bear market is around about 14 months. And that's been consistent, and it also coincides with Bitcoin bear cycles as well, Bitcoin bull and bear cycles. And that fall down is in the bear market. And the bear market bottom is usually marked 14 months after the top in the Bitcoin gold ratio. And right now, we are about 13 months since the Bitcoin gold ratio has topped last year, so in January last year. So that's a point to note. Potentially a harbinger of a bottom. I don't want to call it, but I'm just pointing it out. And then finally, one more chart I want to show you is a key level to watch, which is on the this chart over here, which basically shows this level between 72 to 74K, which is a previous level of resistance and support ever since March 2024. And we indeed did reject. We were rejected from that resistance level at the top there. So we need to break solidly above 74K in order to move higher. And if we do, I also like to include some looks at the on-chain indicators. And this is the entity adjusted URPD, which is basically a measure of what price and the amount of coins in circulation have been bought or sold. And we have a sort of an air gap here between 74K to 79K, which means that if the price does progress above 74K, we could potentially have an air gap upwards towards 79K, because there weren't a lot of Bitcoin holders that had bought at that level, which means there aren't a lot of people looking to sell. The only potential sell level could be at 79 to 80K, which is the big spike you see here in the URPD. So cautiously optimistic, although we're now at 70K. We've sold off a little bit today because of concerns around Iran. But that's my perspective and my analysis. I'm sure Louis has got some of his own as well.
Yeah. Okay, I guess the first thing that I'll say is I forget where I learned this from, but there tends to be, two types of endings to bear markets, right? There's the price, and then there's the time. So there's price-based capitulation and time-based capitulation. And for the price, we actually are like not at the lowest point where I think that we'll go, but like we did reach that like fairly low point close to the 200-week moving average, right? Like that was, I'll just share this. All right, all right, it's good. Yeah. So yeah, the 200-week moving average, everyone knows about it, right? Like this is I have the exponential over here, and then I have the simple. And for I have the 200-week exponential and the 200-week or 300-week exponential. And honestly, like if you just look at history, it has been where Bitcoin has typically bottomed, like January 2015. Underneath there, it's been a great time to buy. Same thing in December 2018. Great time to buy. Great time to buy in 2020 during the COVID crash. And then finally, in 2022, that's the only time where it actually did go like below the 300-week moving average. And so it's like we got to a pretty decent place. Like I would not like say anyone is dumb for dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin at these prices, right? I think that it's probably actually smart to do that, because when you're dollar cost averaging, you want a dollar cost average when the price is going down, and then because that obviously lowers your average dollar average price, and then you want to go all in when you think that there is a bottom. So I don't think that the bottom's in yet, but between this and then I guess I could just, I had like all of these different charts like up, but let me see if I could just change it to a different thing. Like between this and the, let's see, there's the multiplier Z-score. How do I get these charts up on here? It's been like such a long time since I use this.
Shall I remove this one?
There you go.
And
Yeah. That helps. Okay, so I got that, and then there's a lot of charts that are saying that we could be close to a bottom, right? But because of the time-based capitulation part of it, that's why I'm not like totally like going all in or anything like that yet, right? And that's why I'm still chilling on the beach, and I'm not going crazy into the market. But I'll just say yeah, like it's not a time to be rushing in, but it is a time to start to pay attention. Because the other point that I want to make, that this was in my head, I'm sorry, I'm like a little buzzed off of these margaritas, but there's when a lot of times, sometimes when it's time to pay attention is when like no one's paying attention, right? And you could say that there's not a lot of people that are paying attention right now. I mean, we could tell from the numbers, right? So I just remember it was like 2022. It was like late 2022. That's when I found out about Caspa. And that was like basically right when it came about. It was like $20 million market cap or something like that. And like that one trade that I found out before the market started to rally, and while no one was really caring about the markets, that made up for all of my bear market losses. Like that one trade made up for everything. And that's because I was paying attention when no one was, right? So if you could like find a coin or something that has a lot of potential, by just piecing things together, I know stable coins are a really big thing, and like you have to think about the future and what's going to happen with them, and maybe there's going to be a new layer 1, and like Kita came out, and that was like the Google one. So I don't know, maybe like another institution is going to come out with another layer 1 that has some stable coin adoption with like 1 million TPS or something. That who said that needed, was it JP Morgan or someone said that like we need a blockchain with 1 million transactions per second?
I think that was Stripe's CEO. Yeah, he said we needed 1 billion TPS
1
for
billion.
an agent economy. So everyone jumped on that. But I think we're quite some way away before there's any blockchain that can handle that throughput. But yeah, I mean, it's lots of things to look forward to in terms of potential. Well, it's one thing is price, but then the other thing is also news and positive catalysts. And there was a lot that came out this week, and we get onto that in a second. But before we do, just a quick word from our first brand partner.
Hey, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsors of this live stream, Binance. Now, if you need an exchange that has loads of trading pairs, loads of liquidity, and a fantastic interface to boot, then Binance is the place to go. And if you sign up using this QR code, you're not only eligible for up to $600 in sign-up bonuses, but you'll also get a 20% trading fee discount for life. Yes, that is for life. So a big thanks to Binance for sponsoring this stream. And speaking of which, let's get back to it.
Indeed. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of things that have been flying under the radar recently, including Iranian drones and some positive crypto news. So you guys may not have picked up on it. So we'll go through some of this. So basically, to keep you guys in the loop. And Guy, you want to kick us off with the first story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as Nick says, a few things going on that because of sort of wider geopolitical concerns have been somewhat ignored, I think. So I was trawling through headlines earlier today, and I picked out a few that I thought were sort of interesting, but perhaps not enough people spotted them. This one was in Crypto Slate. So this is really interesting. Kraken has just got Federal Reserve access. So basically, in a nutshell, Kraken has now got direct access to the Fed's payment rails. So this means it can do USD settlement without intermediary banks. So this basically makes it a lot faster, a lot more reliable. And if you think in the past, was it March 2023 when we had this banking crisis, and a whole load of crypto firms really sort of struggled, and there's been Operation Choke Point 2.0 to basically keep crypto out of away from banking, as it were. But this is really interesting, I think. Kraken, this is sort of Kraken basically being kind of ushered into the room where the big boys are, basically. So, whereas crypto firms have been debanked in the past during that sort of period, it's kind of not going to happen anymore. They're getting a seat at the table. And what the Fed is doing here is basically testing a payments-only access model. So it'll grant settlement access without, full bank privileges. But, potentially this creates a blueprint for stablecoin issuers to basically get direct Fed settlement via a narrow charter. There's a lot of kind of banking lingo involved in this, but basically, as I say, Kraken has been working towards this for quite a long time. Kraken was talking about basically having its own bank. It's been talking about that for quite a few years now. And it's got a
5 years, I believe they've been working on this.
And possibly longer internally as well. It's chartered in Wyoming, which is a particularly crypto-friendly state, if I recall. And obviously, Kraken itself, one of the OG exchanges. I mean, I think it's, if not the oldest, then definitely one of the oldest. Has always, because it's US based, has always been very compliant. despite having tussles with the SEC back in the past, of course. But yeah, I think this is one of those things. It's a big step forward, not just for Kraken, I think, but for the industry as well. Now you might say, this is kind of, again, this is something that we've touched on a bit in the past. It's like crypto and TradFi are becoming, more and more intertwined. And I kind of feel this is one of those moments where it's sort of, we might look back on this and go, well, that's where it became even harder to figure out where crypto ended and TradFi began and vice versa, so. But nevertheless, it's a big step forward for the industry itself. So I imagine the good folks at Kraken are feeling pretty pleased about that. There's also another bit of news, and this is kind of similar. Let me just try and find this other story for you, because I thought this was very interesting as well. So Kraken, obviously having a good run there. Hang on, let me bring it up here. It's the share screen. This is a story about OKX. You might have noticed how OKX, the OKB token, went absolutely bananas yesterday. And this is the reason why. Basically, ICE Intercontinental Exchange has invested in OKX, $25 billion valuation. Now, in case it wasn't already obvious, this is basically about tokenized stocks. So, again, crypto and TradFi drawing closer together. But what it kind of signals is that TradFi, the likes of ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, and others, they're looking at blockchain-based trading and going, that's the future. This is how it is going to be done. And, they're putting the rails in place for it to do. I want to read you a quote from the article that I thought was quite interesting. Executives from both companies reportedly said the partnership reflects a shared view that tokenized financial assets will play a growing role in global markets. So, this is, it's really annoying to get that advert flash up. There we are. But yeah, so, this is crypto TradFi drawing together another exchange, kind of integrating with, a TradFi entity. And as far as ICE is concerned, they get to use OKX's spot price data so they can launch US regulated crypto futures products. And on the flip side, OKX gets to list tokenized equities and US futures markets. And, OKX has got a lot of customers. It's a big international exchange. So again, this is all part, I think, of the sort of wider push towards tokenization. So if you look at those two stories, together, you've got Kraken making inroads into the banking sector, getting a seat at the Federal Reserve's table. Meanwhile, you've got OKX basically integrating with this massive, US-based exchange platform to start offering tokenized equities. So
that's all great, Guy. I mean, but the main question I think everyone is probably asking is, this is all good news and that, but what about alt season?
Okay, Nick. Okay. Well, if you insist on going down that route, I've got some information to share about alt season as well. Now let me find this, because I'm sure this will warm the cockles. Where is it? According to CoinDesk, almost no one is talking about alt season anymore.
That's bullish. I mean, supposedly that's bullish. I mean, okay, no one, until I mention it now. Okay,
until you are the first, Nick.
I'm the first to mention alt season again. I started a trend. Let's start a trend, guys. Let's get alt season trending on Twitter.
There, you've mentioned it 3 times now, and it's basically trebled in the space of a few seconds. So, if that ain't bullish, I don't know what is. So this is CoinDesk referencing data from sentiment. And perhaps to absolutely no one's surprise, no one is talking about alt season anymore. Mentions of it have absolutely gone through, are absolutely in the toilet. So is this the ultimate contrarian signal? The term is, there was an interesting, again, I want to read a quote from this article because I thought this was quite interesting. They said the term alt season is essentially a proxy for retail greed and speculation. So when everyone's talking about alt season, usually it's the top. And when nobody's talking about it, basically now, apart from us, then that is historically, at any rate, when large holders start accumulating. Just
so you're saying,
just saying.
So what you're saying is it could either be, it's darkest before the dawn for altcoin season, or it's darkest before it goes completely pitch black.
Yeah, but hey, it hasn't always gone pitch black, at least not for your altcoin, right?
That's true. That's true. Some have recovered. I mean, it's never really dead until it's, it could be down 99.999, still never, not down 100% unless it completely.
Listed, literally.
Unless it's not zero. If it's not zero, it's still technically alive, and there's still technically a chance.
Hey, in the with like the $50 that I have left in crypto right now, I did buy some SPX 6900. So fingers crossed. It was between that and fart coin. I couldn't really figure out which one to get, but I figure if no one's talking about it.
Yeah, bro. Oh man. But it's that said though. I mean, I think we got to remember that Bitcoin will bounce back at some point. And Lyn Alden was talking about this on a podcast recently, right, Guy? She was.
In fact, I think it was the All In podcast, the ultimate tech bro circle jerk. So Lyn Alden was a guest there, and I think I've got an article about it here. Yeah,
I think it wasn't Alden. I think it was Mikhail van der Popper's one, New Era Finance podcast.
Is Jason the one that was on the All In that said pivot to AI?
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, he said that at like the bottom of the market in like 2023, and he just retweeted something like a check mark, of that pivot to AI. So that's actually sort of might be a little bullish too, considering that
he is the contrarian indicator, the ultimate contrarian indicator. Like the guy, I'm sorry, he literally comes out here and he marks the absolute bottom of Bitcoin, telling people to pivot into AI. And then because Bitcoin's had a bit of a retracement over the past few, say 6-7 months or so, he comes out and basically tries to, tell everyone, oh, I was right with that tweet. Meanwhile, you missed out the entire rally from like 15K to like 60K.
Exactly. So now that he's gloating about it again, maybe that is a bottom signal.
There we go.
Yeah. Again, these contrarian indicators do not rule them out.
We need him, and we need Jim Cramer. And I don't know if there's one more, but if we could get 3 of them and then in a trifecta, if they all tweet at the same time, then that we know, okay, it's time to go in. That's
Tom Lee, Jim Cramer, Jay.
Tom Lee's analyst.
Well, I've actually got some Tom Lee related news for you in just a moment. But what I want to say just regarding this is Lyn Alden, I think this is a good reminder, because like it is times like this where you really do think like it is over, this ain't coming back. And Lyn Alden, I think, is one of these people who sort of regularly speaks sense, really knows what she's talking about. She said, and she was talking about gold, and as it relates to Bitcoin, she said, gold is not in a bubble, but somewhat euphoric. And I just want to share with you, just for a little bit of contrast. I think this is quite interesting. Now where is it? The Gold Fear and Greed Index, which if I can, where is it? I usually have a tab. Let me try and find it. Oh, it's the JP Morgan. But the Gold Fear and Greed Index is doing pretty well. The gold story still kind of writes itself, doesn't it? And just as a bit of contrast to Lyn Alden, Ray Dalio, who I think has been, if I remember rightly, Ray Dalio has been sort of supportive of Bitcoin in the past. He is not feeling quite so stoked about it. He was actually saying that he was citing sort of quantum fears. And basically saying that he sees, quantum fears and also concerns around privacy. he reckons could be something that is kind of turning investors off, or certainly he has concerns about it. And again, like this quantum thing, I know people say, oh, it's light years away, it's not going to happen anytime soon. But as I keep saying, I think it's just the fact that it could happen, the fact that it is out there, and the fact that people are actively working on quantum stuff. I think a lot of these guys with very long time horizons are just going, well, okay, fine, you fix the quantum thing, and I'll buy some Bitcoin. But until you do that, and obviously that is not, that is something that I guess will happen in some way. But it's just sort of, it's a question of when, isn't it? And given everything that happens with Bitcoin, it could be quite a while.
Yeah, indeed. But there is a bit of more FUD that we just alluded to, that as it pertains to Ethereum, right?
Yes, it's not all good news, I'm afraid, because Mr. Tom Lee is out there. The Iran war won't spoil Ethereum's price rally in March, says Tom Lee. Now this was on the 3rd of March. Ethereum has not quite done so well since then. It's certainly down. ETH's actually holding up better than might be expected. But did I add it to the screen there? Yeah. So I'm kind of taking Tom Lee as a little bit of a contrarian signal these days. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, geez, he's had a tough time. Wow. I mean, to be honest, he's got no other strategy, right? No other choice. He's got to go on and keep singing the praises for Ethereum. But there was a report that came out today, which we're actually going to do and cover next week in a video. Culper, I think it's Culpers or something. But it was a report that basically has taken they took a massive short on ETH and Bitmine. And it broke down like basically a lot of the argument Tom Lee has made around the growth of the Ethereum network and transactions has been there's been spam transactions and like a lot of people running these spam addresses that try to catch people out, and essentially that itself was misread by Tom Lee. And then the report also said, well, I mean, you got Tom Lee saying you got to be bullish, but you got literally Vitalik selling his ETH. So I don't know. I mean, we'll release it sometime next week, but that report is going around the Twitter sphere right now. Yeah.
Okay, shall we hear from our other sponsor, and then shall we talk about war?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Coinbase is offering up to 150 euros in BTC when you create and verify an account there and use it to buy some crypto. So scan the QR code on screen now to get access to all the amazing products and services offered by one of the world's biggest and best known exchanges. Restrictions apply. See terms and conditions for more details.
Thank you to Coinbase.
Thank you, Coinbase, yeah. So, a little bit of what we in the UK sometimes call handbags at dawn going on over in this part of the world. So I guess the question is...
handbags, say that again?
Handbags at dawn.
Can you please explain that analogy?
Oh, God, how long have you got? Like the idea of pistols at dawn, like fighting a duel.
Okay. So why is the British version handbags at dawn? Why is a handbag and not a pistol?
That I'm not sure. It might have been coined back when Mrs. Thatcher was Prime Minister, and she famously carried a handbag. And I think the implication was that she, anyone crossed her, she would just whack them around the head with that. But handbags in British parlance is sort of like a bit of a dust up.
Okay. So, wow. I learned something new, man. FUD and FOMO. When did I even imagine I'd learn something like that on our own stream? Such informative stuff. You guys come here for British colloquialisms, and the crypto news.
Exactly. You come for the crypto news. You stay for the lingo. So what's been going on, Nick?
Well, I mean, for one, we're not going to talk about the war. We're not going to get into politics. We're not a geopolitical analysis channel, so we're not going to open up that can of worms. What I will say is what's important as it relates to the markets, and the most important market right now that everyone is watching is, of course, the oil markets. And oil has shot up a lot. It's up 12%. I think it's at about $85 the last time I checked. And this is because of, we know there's the Strait of Hormuz closure, right? That has literally kind of come to a complete halt. Only very few ships passing through. Some ships are being attacked. We actually did a video on Coinbase Finance about this as well. And it's not just oil. More importantly is LNG, or liquefied natural gas, and Qatar has actually stopped producing, or stopped shipping, because, and they've had to shut their production lines because they're worried about what they also got hit recently. I think one of their LNG plants, but so they are stopping to send their LNG tankers through the straits, and LNG shipping rates are surging from $40,000 to $300,000 per day. Just think about that. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's Europe that's really bad for, I think.
Yeah, and Europe, well, I mean, look at the Europe is very dependent on liquefied natural gas. They wanted to pivot away from Russian gas, and as a result, they basically had to supplement that with Qatari gas, LNG. So we've got this story. I'll pop it up there now.
How
look
can
at this? That's jet fuel, but up 40%. Europe's jet fuel comes to the Straits of Hormuz, and it's up 40%. 7% this week to the highest. Oh no, sorry, it's up 70% this week to the highest level since June 2022. Like, Europe can't catch a break. It's literally just catching strays on the LNG side, on the jet fuel side, and now it's kind of like, also what's interesting. I saw a tweet earlier that Russia signed a natural gas deal with China about a year ago, and at this time now they're supplying China with their gas. And now they think it's maybe a very opportune time for them to tell Europe, yeah, we've actually got another buyer for the gas. So yeah, what's your best rate?
Yeah. It's another blow to Europe. But I mean, it's really interesting how all of this just, I guess it kind of throws the cards up in the air of this whole game of, who supplies who, and who gets the LNG, who gets the oil. It kind of feels like, and I guess that's why markets are so jittery, because it makes everything just so hard to call, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is a news article on Financial Times, unfortunately not logged in, but it was the Qatari energy minister who was saying that if we don't stop or free up the strait within the next 2 or 3 days, you're going to have massive impacts on the energy market, potentially oil up to $150 a barrel. And the concern here is not just whether you can free up the straits. Let's assume you can free it up even just tomorrow. There's a backlog, because if you think about all the downstream products and everything as well, there we go. The downstream products as well, as we mentioned, Europe, jet fuel, but there's also other things like other derivatives of oil, like fertilizer, stuff like that comes, that's a feedstock that comes as a feedstock from oil in the Gulf, and the Gulf exports it. So the straits need to free up pretty quickly. I mean, let's hope. But if you get $150 oil, wow. I mean, think about inflation now. We think, and the impacts on then questions around monetary policy. Or is the Fed going to feel comfortable cutting rates? And Europe is just getting the worst of it, because now I think prior to this, the markets were pricing in an ECB cut in interest rates. And just after this now, they're pricing in probability-wise interest rate rises from the ECB.
Okay. So, Louis, I have a question for you in regards to this, because as a trader, and as we've seen, someone not afraid to pivot very, very quickly. Were you long oil when you heard about this? Have you rotated everything into oil? Are you out of precious metals and now into oil?
Well, Nick, can you switch me with Guy in the placeholder real quick?
How do you do that? I don't know how to do that.
Oh, well, maybe if I do that, I don't know. I actually, speaking of that, of going into certain things, I did it. I was able to do it, Nick. Yeah, I actually pivoted everything into jet fuel not too long ago, and so that I'm not afraid. You can't be afraid to go into these uncharted territories, Guy. You know, you gotta go where the wind is taking you. You know,
Yeah.
the sails. If I had a little bit more capital in the markets, yeah, as soon as that information about the strait came out, it's like, okay, obviously, like, going to oil. But you know what I've been doing lately? I've been listening to Stan Druckenmiller a lot lately. And I had this whole playlist of like 50 different interviews with him, and I've been going through those. And I really, really like his style, where he looks for things that he is really, really confident on and could put a big thesis behind it that makes a lot of sense, and it makes him, like, he understands it, and just the confidence level that he has in his trades. And so I'm looking for things like that for me to go in more heavy into pretty much anything. And right now, I mean, oil honestly is probably that, but that would be like a really, really short term thing, because I think that they're gonna straighten it out pretty soon. But yeah, that's what I want to be looking for, is like how can I find something that I could create a really good thesis around, that makes a lot of sense, that I feel confident enough to go in. And I just don't have any of that right now. A lot of it's probably, especially in crypto, because of the whole time-based thing, because every cycle is always taking like 1 year between the top and the bottom, right? Like November of 2022 to November of 2023 or whatever, or 2021 to 2022, and then 2022 was the bottom. And then same thing with, like, it was December of 2018 to December of 2019. That was like the top to the bottom of that. So it's always like 1 year. So like I'm sort of still waiting for that for a little bit more time. But yeah, when that happens, that's when I'll, or if something occurs that gives me a really good confidence level on a really good thesis, that's when I'll actually like pivot heavily. But for right now, I'm sort of just dabbling in a bunch of other things, and honestly, doing a lot with Claude Code and a lot with AI to try to create not necessarily like algorithms, like trading algorithms, but like algorithms that will help me trade, like give alerts and flash when certain things happen, and building out like dashboards and stuff. It's pretty crazy what you could do with AI now. I've been messing around with it like really in depth, and built some pretty crazy stuff in like not a lot of time. So
yeah, no, I'm using it regularly, and it's just such an amazing. It's such an amazing, especially when you're building out your own agents to do things for you in an automated fashion. It's been an amazing help in terms of like many of the things I do, from news and analysis to, haven't given it control of my wallets yet. Knowing my agents, they're probably gonna scam me or something. So I'm not taking that risk.
Somebody did that, and they ended up spending everything. And literally, I don't know if this is true, but like they said, on the tweet, it said like, hey, my agent has gotten totally off the rails, haywire. Like he said, no, you should only be spending this amount, don't spend any more. And then the agent was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'll only spend this much from now on. And then he just spends like way, way more. And then the guy was like, no, stop. What are you doing? I told you not to spend that much. And then he said, and then the agent was like, yeah, Well, I didn't listen to you. Sorry, my bad. I'll listen to you now. And then he still spent it. And then the agent literally said, this had to be made up. Now that I think, like, it has to be, because he said that the agent was like, yeah, so I was just doing what I wanted. I couldn't really figure out the answer to your question, so I just made stuff up. Like, it just started. Like, so yeah, I don't think we're there yet. We're quite there yet, where you want to give it a control of your wallet.
I just imagine mine talking back to me. It's like, I'm sorry, guy. I did hear what you said there, but I just don't think you're very clever. And I think the AI agent, am cleverer than you, so I'm in charge now. Just
Honestly,
go outside and water the garden.
I have a superior intelligence, so I'm just gonna do what I want. Yeah, that's probably what it's gonna do.
That is the future we're headed for, and sometimes, I just feel I'm completely here for it. The sooner the better. Sooner I can just outsource it all over to an AI that is exponentially smarter than me, the better. Just to bring it back, Nick, was there anything else that you wanted to flag up?
Big news, guys. We had non-farm payrolls break 10 minutes ago, and want to take a guess where we're at? So expectations, guy, without looking, expectations were forecast for 50K. The previous was 130K. What do you think? Where do you think we came in at?
So what was a difference of a bit of 50s of 80K, an 80K spread on that last one?
Yeah.
So forecast 50 non-farm payrolls. I'm going to say it came in at 60.
A bit off, minus 92K. It was revisions downwards.
Wow.
Good guess though.
Minus 400,000.
So, I mean, technically that should mean the Fed is more likely to want to cut. But Bitcoin is still now, unfortunately, below 70K. So yeah, this is unfortunately the US's job market isn't looking too hot, at least according to the NFP numbers. But we had a lot of good job numbers this week, from ADP to the jobless claims to a few others. So it's interesting. Weird job market.
I guess if you're the current US administration, you just want all the numbers that come out this week. You don't care really, because there's a very big there's a very big distraction going on the other side of the world. That makes people not pay nearly as much attention to those numbers, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. Cool. So we want to take a look at quickly see if we can go through some of the comments, maybe answer some chaps over here.
Yes. Let's see. There's a question for Louis. Can I bring this one up, Louis? We bottoming at 40 on the RSI 14 like we did previously on the 1M time frame, or do we go lower this time considering the 3M stock RSI? I mean, this is Greek to me.
Yeah. So I actually just answered this. Essentially, what he's saying is that the RSI at 14 is just the typical number that the RSI uses. It goes 14 days back or 14 months back or whatever. But he's using the 1M or the 1 month time frame. And that is way too large of a time frame to use RSI reliably, like by itself. And especially when he says considering the 3-month stochastic RSI, that's too long, because the RSI is a lagging indicator. So the price happens first, and then based off what the price does, the RSI, follows that and creates its indicator. Same with the MACD, same with a lot of these other indicators. And if you want to actually be on top of the market, you have to use the price, because that is obviously what's happening right now. And things that are current indicators that are not lagging. So yeah, I don't use the 1 month. I look at the weekly, and if you look at the weekly time frame on the RSI, it last time during the bear market, what happened was it bottomed to where it is now, and the price hit a support, and then it started to go up, and the price started to go up, and the RSI started to go up. But then the price ended up going down even further. And then the RSI bottomed a little bit higher than it previously did, and created a bullish divergence on the weekly time frame on the RSI. So that's what I'm looking for when it comes to RSI. Bitcoin. I'm looking for a weekly bullish divergence. And if we get that honestly, that might be a signal to go all in for me. Because that happens so rarely to get a weekly bullish divergence on the RSI. So that's the answer. That's the answer to this. I wouldn't even pay attention to the monthly time frame RSIs, and I would look at the weekly, and I would look for bullish divergences.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, but you'll let us know if that big one does pop up.
Honestly, hopefully the AI stuff that I'm building out will create an alert system to do it. So yeah, I'll let you guys know.
Fantastic. Kenny has been digging into handbags at dawn.
It's a humorous British idiom describing a catty or dramatic confrontation, often trivial and commonly referencing women in a light-hearted catfight scenario. Okay, cool.
There we are.
Now I know. I mean,
I told you guys would learn something. Nick is saying you and I should just go into the desert at dawn and role play handbags at dawn. Just hit each other with handbags, I guess. That would be a bracing start to the day.
At least we're out in the desert, so we're not in the path of any sort of drones. So at least we can fight in peace.
Get
it over with.
Quieter out there. It's a little quieter. Again, I just want to flag up and thanks to everyone, including longtime viewer Kranskanator, wishing us all health and safety out here in the Gulf. We appreciate it, and of course you out there in South Florida, Lewis. We hope you're safe and well out there. I know South Florida can get a bit dicey sometimes.
Yeah, man, it's dodgy, man. How you surviving out there, man? It must be tough, eh?
Yeah, between all these bikini lad woman and everything.
That is tough. That's what I'm saying. It's tough.
Those pina coladas, they don't drink themselves, do they?
Yeah,
dude, yeah. Exactly. Wallet, it's a weapon of mass destruction for your wallet, bro.
Honestly, Dubai was worse.
Oh, okay.
Dubai, it's quite easy for money to just float away in Dubai.
Yeah. I looked at my credit card. I'm like, this can't be right. And then you ever do that? You look at your credit card statement and you're like, there's no freaking way. And then you have to crunch the numbers. You look at the numbers and you're like, this, all right, it adds up, but it doesn't add up. I made the mistake the other 2-3 weeks ago of going to a restaurant where they didn't have prices on the menu. They just quoted market price for fish. And I thought, okay, it's just fish. I'm not drinking. It's just fish. How bad could this be? And I'll get some nice whatever. And I'll say, okay, whatever group or whatever the fish was, they go and show you. You take a look at it. That's great. Okay, I'll choose that and that. And then I'm thinking, okay, because we're not drinking, this can't be that expensive. I just ordered some nice different samplings of fish. And the bill came and I wasn't impressed. And this was at exactly the same time I was getting notifications. This is 3 weeks ago when Bitcoin was falling below 80K. And so I got hit with a bill and I got hit with Bitcoin notification below 80K. And I was like, FML. So yeah.
That wasn't the same weekend you got food poisoning from oysters, though.
No. That
would have been a triple.
And that cost me. That's one of the only places where when I spent $400 to get food poisoning.
That would have been I don't think I'd have been able to contain myself if that had been the truth. Yes, a few. Adrian is condoling us for England in the Cricket World Cup. It was a hell of a game last night. If there are any Indians in the audience, congratulations, guys. You deserved it, but we ran you close. Okay, I'm just seeing if there are any other comments we want to run through before we let people go for the weekend. Nimoy42 is waiting until September or October to buy Bitcoin. I think that was when Ben Cowan was saying. Yeah. It could be that could be a time that could be where it gets interesting again. Okay, I think, chaps, I'm going to let you go and get on with your weekends. Nick, it sounds like you have expensive fish to go and buy. Lewis, I know those pina coladas are calling, so let you get off and head back to the bikini-clad women at the bar. Sorry to tear you away from them for so long on Friday.
Don't get too comfortable though, bro, because we need you back here, man, in wonderful sunny Dubai.
Yeah. is it the sun or is
Louis
it,
will be like, "Oh, what do you know? My flight's cancelled again. Oh, damn it."
Emirates doesn't fly from Miami anymore. Sorry, guys.
yeah, sorry, it's a new policy. I'll have to figure it out. I'll have to take a ferry. Might take a few months.
Just so yeah, hitch a ride on the next cruise liner that's coming this way. Well, we will see you. We'll see you in September or October then, Louis.
Yeah, that's when the markets
Fantastic.
would turn up anyway. So
All right. Okay, Louis, Nic, it's been great to see you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back. Nic and I will be back on Monday with the Coin Bureau live news show. We will be over on Coin Bureau's main channel, kicking off at the usual time. So let's see. Last weekend was kind of interesting. Let's see what this weekend brings. I, for one, hope it's a little bit quieter, but whatever happens, we will be there to keep you up to date. So have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
Cheers, guys.